this table. You're welcome here. You are not erased. You will find your place at this table. At this table.
Hi, welcome to At the Table with Chelsea and Dana. For this episode, we're going to talk about the parable of the workers in the vineyard. The parable is located in Matthew 20. The link is below, or if you have your Bible handy, you can certainly get it out and read through it. We're not going to go through the entire parable, but we're actually going to summarize it in our discussion. So we hope you enjoy this conversation, and feel free to comment or send us a note and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You don't withhold your love from us. Arms open wide upon a cross. You give no matter what the cost. Jesus, we see you. All of these worlds your hands have made. A billion stars stretched out in space. These are just echoes of your grace. Jesus, we see you. You are the generous giver. Your mercy overflows. Your blessing is a river. On and on and on it goes. You are an endless fountain. You're filling up my life. My heart must sing your praises. Jesus, you be glorified. Jesus, you reach us in our pain. Your mercy meets us every day. Your love will never turn away, no. Jesus, we see you. You are the generous giver. Your mercy overflows. Your blessing is a river. On and on it goes. You are an endless fountain. You're filling up my life. My heart must sing your praises. Jesus, you be glorified. On and on. On and on. On and on. Jesus, you be glorified. On and on. On and on. On and on. Jesus, you be glorified. You're so much better. You're so much better. You're so much kinder than anything we think you are. Your love is deeper. Your love is wider. Open our eyes to see you, God. You're so much better. You're so much kinder than anything we think you are. Your love is deeper. Your love is wider. Our eyes are open.
right. It's going to be a good one today.
Absolutely.
We're talking about Matthew 20, the workers in the vineyard. And so to get us started, we're going to do a little, contextual work for the audience. First, talk about the Gospels. Matthew is one of the 4 Gospels. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the Gospels?
So there's 4 Gospels in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And really they're the stories of Jesus. So if you hear of Jesus teaching or doing miracles, telling parables like we'll hear today, you'll find those in the Gospels.
In the Gospels. And as Chelsea mentioned, we're going to talk about a parable. The workers in the vineyard is a parable that Jesus told. And a parable, based on what the research that we've done, the scholars that we've listened to, and the interpretation that we've taken on for ourselves, is that a parable is not an allegory.
Right. There's not some hidden meaning deep inside.
Right.
We have to peel the onion and get to it. It's more of an opportunity to join in conversation, to find what's uncomfortable in the story for you. What is kind of pinching you to say, hey, this might not be.
Yeah, where have you
thing.
triggered yourself,
Right? Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're looking for that. You're looking for, if you walk away from a parable and you're like, oh, okay, good, yay. Nuh-uh. That's
Another
not
sweet
what it's looking
story,
for. No,
right, yeah.
It's the uncomfortable. You're looking for what makes you feel like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right. That's why Jesus told the story.
That's why Jesus told the story. Which also gets to, we want to set this up, and this is important, is that Jesus is Jewish.
Right.
And he's talking to Jewish people.
Yeah. That always makes me laugh for some reason, because I think that a lot of people think that Jesus was Christian. And he wasn't. He was Jewish, living in a Jewish, this is all Jewish context. The people that he was telling these stories to were very familiar with the Hebrew text, which is like the Jewish scriptures. And actually, the Christianity didn't come until many years.
Right, many years later.
Yeah, right. So Jesus was Jewish.
Jesus was Jewish, and he's talking to Jewish people. Okay, so let's go ahead and summarize the story in Matthew 20, and I'll let you start that off.
Sure. So there was a man, and he had a large property, a vineyard, and it was time to harvest. So he goes out into the town and early in the morning and picks some people to come and harvest. He goes back out at 9, at noon, at 3, and then at 5.
So 5 times he goes back.
He goes back out to gather workers. And at the end of the day, they come to get their pay, and they all receive the same pay. They all receive pay for a full day. And of course, the people that were there early in the morning were grumbling about it, not too happy about it. But that's what the landowner decides to do.
Yeah, so the person who arrives at 6 a.m. gets paid the same as that person who arrives at 5 p.m.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So as we have talked about parables, one of the things that we've taken on is, Chelsea's kind of coined this, I love it, is the empathy model. And this is how, one way to read parables is to place yourself in the position of all these different characters or these figures.
Right.
So first, maybe think about what it's like to be the person hired first. Maybe what it's like to be the person hired last. What it's like to be the landowner, and just kind of sit with those perspectives.
It helps just to make it come a little bit more alive for you. So how is this real for me? How would I be feeling? How would this look in my life right now?
Yeah.
And so when you think about okay, I was hired at first, I was hired at dawn, and I'm getting paid the same as the person that just came in a couple hours, until end of the day. I'd be pissed, right?
Yeah.
I would be like,
Me
that's
too.
not fair. And they weren't happy either. It's this, that's not fair. I worked harder. I worked longer. I deserve more.
Right.
And we've all had experiences like that. Maybe you didn't get the promotion you thought you deserved, or your kid didn't get the starring role in the production that you thought that they should. We all have examples of something like that in our lives.
Absolutely. I know I have examples. I can think of in my head. I'm not going to share them all right now, but I know there's been that moment where I'm like, really? I know I did more than that person.
Right.
Why am I not getting more?
I deserve more.
I deserve more. Right. So we have that role, and then we also have what it's like to be the person at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and you imagine you come in and there's like an hour left in the day, and then you get paid a full day's work. I mean, you're probably feeling gratitude. You're probably feeling so grateful that you have that full day's work. Yeah.
And this reminded me of, as I was growing up, and I've heard this parable many times, one of the things that was shared with me is that the folks that were hired last, maybe they had some kind of ailment. Maybe they were not physically able to work. And so that's why they were hired last. And okay, maybe it makes sense that they were given the same amount. But you know what? That's not what the parable says.
Right.
The parable says, there doesn't even talk anything about that they were not physically able to work. It actually says that the landowner came into town and said, why, like, you can work, acknowledge that they had the ability to work.
Right.
And so I imagine that they got there and feeling grateful, but it made me think about, are they in a crowd? And it just so happens that the people that were chosen first just are lucky.
Like the finger just landed on them.
It just landed on them. They were lucky. These are all people that have the same ability. They all can work. And the people that were hired at first are lucky. The people that were hired at 9 and then at 12 are lucky. And so for me, that connected me to my privilege.
Right. I mean, and I think about that too. Like, I didn't do anything to deserve to be born in America during this time. I didn't do anything to deserve not being born in India in a slum. I mean, you know, I didn't earn my place in life, as far as like my privilege is concerned.
And it is such I think a value that we've kind of been born into in this culture, is that you earned it, you deserved it, you should reap it. And yet at the end of the day, there's just a privilege. I mean, it reminds me of my white privilege, my white privilege. There are things that I have access to because I'm white that there's no other reason.
Right.
There's just not.
Right. I mean, it's like you think about the finger happened to land on you.
Yeah.
Right.
It just did.
But what's cool about this parable is the landowner comes out and pays everyone the same as a reminder, you know, no matter where you are in life or in the world, that your dignity and worth are the same as anybody else's, that we all have dignity and worth because we are made in the image of God. Period. I mean, stop.
And that is what tells me, like, this is the countercultural kingdom of God, right? Which it doesn't matter. God's justice is not our justice.
Right.
God's value is equal to all people.
Right.
It does not matter.
Right.
And and that's sometimes a very hard pill for us to swallow.
Yeah, especially in our culture of individualism and not believing that we're really, truly interconnected with one another.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been taught that more is better, that excess is good, that achievement and success are necessary, and Jesus is countercultural to that.
Absolutely, everything he says,
Yeah.
and all 4 Gospels. It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
You're not gonna. Yeah, that is his message, and so that takes us kind of to the last story, which is, or the last perspective to think about, or one of the last perspectives to think about, is the landowner.
Right.
And the landowner goes back 5 times.
Right.
Now, it doesn't say that that this is the landowner's first harvest, or that is his 100th harvest. But regardless, my guess is he had some idea. Normally, you'd know how many people you need to harvest your land.
Right. Especially, I would think, like, okay, you go out once and you think, okay, this isn't enough. Maybe you go out again, maybe. But to go out 5 times, you're just thinking, like, did he really not know how many people he needed or how much work there was to do? And then when you put yourself in that position, maybe it's that this landowner went back home and said, no, I can do more. I can offer more opportunity for work. I can be more generous. And a constant all-day revisitation of what more can I do? What more can I give? What more can I provide to the well-being of more people?
Right. And it does remind me of the scarcity model, or the scarcity mentality that I think, again, I'm going to go back to, I feel like we have in our culture, which is, okay, there's just not enough.
Right.
I've just got to, whatever it is for me. And that's actually not the case at all. There is enough.
Right. And you know what? I think we especially run into that hard place when we talk about your kids or your family, and you think, like, I need to give my kids everything. I need to provide. I need to, like, make sure that they have everything they need and want and whatever. And I just wonder if that's, I so often wonder if that's just the opposite. If we're doing a disservice to our kids by giving them everything they need or want.
Yeah, and I think we can both identify, being that we're moms, we have different age groups, but I certainly have felt that way, is, wanting to give my kids as much as I can, and then also taking moments to recognize that I have a privilege that many people don't, and how that I have to recognize that and take that in.
Yeah, a pinch point for you, for sure.
It's definitely a pinch point for
and
me.
Even for me, like, sometimes I try to trick myself into thinking, but this will be good, right? So I was, like, an example, I was at Marshall's the other day, and I was picking up some socks for my daughter, and I saw this little puzzle of the nativity, like Mary and Joseph and Jesus. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should get that for Max, my 2.5-year-old son, and I could teach him about Jesus with this puzzle. And I really had to, like, have a soul-searching moment in the middle of Marshall's where I was like, but who made this puzzle? And was it, fair pay and good
health and safety,
of the factory workers? And why are the people making that puzzle somehow less deserving than my son Max, who does deserve this? And it got into a whole big soul-searching moment for me, and I decided
in Marshalls,
awesome. Right? But I just decided I didn't need it. I don't need more. I can teach Max about Jesus without the puzzle.
You are a pastor.
Did children's ministry for a while,
for a long time.
And so, but it was this moment of sometimes those moments are really hard to be intentional about the ways in which we are participating in the world and making sure that it's not that we have more, but that everybody has enough.
Yep.
And we have those moments all of the time that we have opportunities to have those moments all the time.
And I think that's why, in this parable, it's one day's time where the landowner goes back 5 times, but maybe it's also to symbolize for us, this is a lifetime for us. This is something that we have to work at over and over again, especially in our culture. And that reminds me, and it takes me back to something we have said so many times, that the Bible is a living document. It continues to come alive in time and space, generation after generation. And how is it going to reveal itself to us? And right here is where it's at.
Right. The truth that was true then is true now.
Still true now.
Right. And it's just really, for us to be able to step into that space and realize, okay, these are still true for us. These principles of what God's kingdom is or what it should be, it's still what God intends for the world. And so what is our place in that?
Yeah.
And I think as we move into Christmas season, we have lots of opportunities to kind of pause and be intentional. And how are we going to participate in Christmas this year?
Yeah. And so we want people to walk away, thinking about the message that came out of this discussion, but also what could you do? What other options are out there? How could you maybe contemplate doing something different?
And I think as we move into, we're connected to an opportunity, which is an alternative gift fair, which really, instead of, buying someone a new sweater or a new, Nintendo game or whatever it is.
Xbox or PlayStation. Chelsea doesn't have kids my age. She's got younger kids.
Whatever it is, Sega or whatever it is. But you have an opportunity, instead of buying those presents that are just an example of accumulating more, you have an opportunity to give back. There's an opportunity to give an hour of tutoring to a kid in need, or a chicken to a family who can use the eggs as a source of protein. And then you can give that. Say, Dana, I got you a chicken for a family in need this year. And what a great way for you to participate, but also to share that with somebody else.
Yeah, and there's the connectedness again. Right. We're all connected into this.
So we'll make sure to put a link to that at the bottom of the newsletter, but there's plenty of opportunities for you to find your own ways of how to be intentional about making sure everybody has enough, and Christmas or any time.
At any time.
Right.
And I love having these conversations. I do feel like we could go on and just go down a bunch of different rabbit holes, which we won't do, but it's just always a joy to be in conversation and in community, which is where, even though we have to distance, we're still in community together. Mm-hmm. And before we do wrap up, we do want to point out, we've mentioned it a couple of times, is that A.J. Levine is a scholar. Dr. A.J. Levine is a scholar at Vanderbilt, and she actually wrote this book, Short Stories by Jesus, which are many of Jesus's parables, not all of Jesus's parables.
As you can see, Dana is a well-used copy.
I love my little, this is my markers. I got highlight throughout the whole thing. And so we certainly encourage you to check out A.J. Levine and any of the others. She's written many books.
She's great.
Yeah,
she's great.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Well, next time we will go into the Advent season.
Exciting.
What is Advent, and how does it take us to Christmas?
Yeah.
Tune in for
time.
I wanna know you, Lord, like I know a friend. I wanna know you, Lord. I wanna know you, Lord, like I know a friend. I wanna know you, Lord. So I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I wanna know box you in, but I'm laying down. And I used to think that I could box you in. I'm laying it down. I wanna know you, Lord. I wanna know you, Lord. Yeah. And I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I wanna know you, Lord. And I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I wanna know you, Lord. Lord, I've been told to be ashamed, and Lord, I've been told I don't measure up, and Lord, I've been told I'm not good enough, but you're here with me, yeah, you're here with me, Lord, and I reach out and you find me in the dust. You say no amount of untruths can separate us. I will rejoice in the simple gospel, and I will rejoice in you, Lord, and I will rejoice in the simple gospel, and I will rejoice in you, Lord. Yes. I will rejoice in you, Lord. I will rejoice in you, Lord. I will rejoice in the simple gospel, and I will rejoice in you, oh Lord, and I will rejoice in the simple gospel. I will rejoice in you, oh Lord, in you, oh Lord, I will rejoice. At this